And welcome to the podcast, Appetite for Distortion, episode number 355. My name is Brando, double talking jive, double London jive. I guess it's the joke, right? Two London shows, Guns N' Roses themed, Appetite. Now, if I'm explaining it, it's not very funny. But we had to do two parts for the London review for Guns N' Roses. And we had to have a bigger panel, more fans to talk about, because there is a lot to talk about. As we're putting out this review, London already happened, and we'll get into at least one postponement, which at least affected one of us here. So I'll just go in order of people who joined the Zoom first, just to be, I think that's fair, right? Scott Jones wearing a nice Guns N' Roses shirt with the cross. And you also have Appetite for the Destruction behind you, the vinyl. Where are you zooming in from today, if you don't mind me asking?
So I live in London. I'm from Wales originally, but yeah, I live not too far from the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, actually.
Okay, cool. And we have, and by the way, I appreciate you, Scott. I tell everyone this, like, how do I get on the show? And I really do. It amazes me, those who including all three of you, who reached out to me wanting to be a part of this podcast and do a review. I'm flattered. So thanks for all of you for coming on, if I don't say that enough today. Lily reached out on Instagram. Scott reached out on Twitter. So Lily reached out. I thank you for that. Where are you zooming in from?
Right now in Glasgow. Got here last night for the now postponed gig.
Oh, yeah, we're going to talk about that. You're wearing the Bullet Guns N' Roses shirt. And
yeah, it's the hoodie from the London tour.
Is that the $100 hoodie? It was, I spent
so yeah, that would be like $100, yeah.
Okay, so I don't know. I've said this on the show before. I bought the what equates to $100 American dollars, and I tell everybody during these fan reviews in other countries, make fun of my American ignorance. It's fine. Like I'm. It's even bad locally. Like if you just put me outside, and if I don't have a GPS, I don't know where I am. Like I'm lucky I know my way to the bathroom in my own house, let alone what countries are. It's just, my brain retains Guns N' Roses facts, not geography. But Lily, you went to both nights, thankfully, so you didn't completely miss out. My heart goes out to those who did. Scott, I forgot to ask, you went to just night one or both nights?
Night two.
Oh, you went to night two.
Yeah, the Saturday. Yeah.
Okay, that's going to be an interesting perspective. And Steven from the Hot Spurs podcast. And speaking of my American ignorance, I'm like, Hot Spurs, this is sort of, I don't know, cowboy podcast about, I don't know how to even go there. Steven.
So the shirt I'm wearing, by the way, is Tottenham. So I believe you pronounced it Tottenham. It's we say Tottenham. And that was the stadium that they played in. So that's my team, Tottenham Hotspur. And the podcast I do is all about the football team, soccer team for you, Tottenham Hotspur.
Tottenham. Am I saying it right there? Okay.
Tottenham. That's it. With like a thick kind of North London Tottenham. You got to kind of spit it out.
Tottenham. Sorry, I don't want to come off that way. I'd rather bash. It's funny. I think about this all the time because I'm grateful, including all three of you, that I have listeners of this podcast all across the world. In the amount of times I'm sure I have completely destroyed other languages or countries, and you know it's all with ignorance. I don't know. I don't do it on purpose. So Tottenham.
It's Tottenham. You can't say it posh. You got to say it like Tottenham. You know.
See, we don't even say that here. I wish I would. It's cool, but people look at me like I'm a poser. You know, this Queen's Jew saying posh all of a sudden. You know, I wish I could say that. But this is thank you, Stephen, and for educating me, if nothing else. So the Spurs podcast, yeah, learning a lot. And you know, let me start off kind of by saying this with the London gigs at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Yeah. You can laugh every time. It's fine.
Special Tottenham like Spurs and Roses merch. Did you get any of that, Stephen?
No, I didn't. We got there because I was working. Obviously, I went on the Friday, so I literally left work, got on the train, got in there as soon as I could. I missed the queues, so everyone was like moaning about the queues. But I missed all that because I got there about 5:30. So I was like straight in. I was golden circle because at the West Ham Stadium, which is the Olympic Stadium in 2017, I got normal tickets, and you know you just can't see a thing, and you end up going further back, and I couldn't remember seeing a thing, so I decided to get golden circle for this one, and we were just straight in. We were right at the front. It was brilliant, and of course had no idea that after 3 or 4 songs, no one in the whole stadium could hear a thing because we were right at the front. I'm sure we'll get into this, Brando, but apparently the whole stadium couldn't hear anything because they didn't turn the speakers on.
It's crazy, and I wanted to mention this right off the bat because it's a comment. So kudos to whoever screenshots these. I'm not finding them. Richard Fortis is kind of explaining within comments to people, which is nice. He is always welcome back on this podcast if that is ever allowed. But he said, because people are obviously frustrated. I was just talking to a fan, very frustrated on Twitter about, yeah, they're going to reschedule, but who's going to pay for the fees, the travel fees, all this. So Richard goes, I can totally appreciate your frustration, and it's shared. Our sound crew really struggled with that venue. It's one of the worst sounding stadiums we've encountered. Being the first band to play there, though, we were guinea pigs. We will spread word to other bands. There simply isn't any way of knowing from a sound check what it will be like with people in the seats. So
bizarrely, for Tottenham's point of view, obviously I'm a Tottenham fan, so I know about the stadium. Basically, it's a brand new stadium, opened about 3 years ago. The sound system is what U2 use. Like the Tottenham fans like me, actually, we got quite angry that we were spending so much on sound systems and not on players, because we don't generally spend a lot on players. But we got the best sound system, and when we play matches, like that, they boom out the records, and it sounds terrific. So, but I was speaking to a guy who works there, and he said literally on Thursday they hand over the keys to Live Nation or whoever's in charge, and they just say like, okay, there you go, there's the stadium. Give the keys back on Monday morning. So obviously, whoever was in charge of that is in trouble because they didn't ask how to turn the speakers on or whatever happened. I don't know.
That I'm glad you're here because you're offering this perspective that I just don't have, especially being a fan of Tottenham. So it's going to be like, I gotta rush it so it sounds. I don't know. I'm gonna keep it.
That's it. That's how you say it.
I'm gonna keep making it worse and worse for me. It's not gonna get better throughout this episode. I want to go to the backtrack a little bit. Lily, you were at the first show of London, right?
Yep, both of them. Yeah.
So we did Double London Jive Part 1 of fans that were at night 1, and there was still a lot of confusion. And I was hoping maybe you can clarify your experience of fans that were waiting so long outside. And then, of course, Scott, didn't get much better for you night 2, but Lily, and I want to make sure so I don't forget to credit this listener on Twitter, and he says these were false. Maybe you can give a different perspective. Ticketing issues being blamed for crowds. He says that was false. This is Kempe No Fear. Transport blamed for doors opening. False. Scene lack of staff being blamed. False. Although last episode, one of our listeners said he saw maybe 5 people taking tickets on like the 3rd tier or something. So what was your experience night 1 with all that chaos of outside and waiting? And tell us, please.
Yeah, so doors were meant to open at 3:30. I'd say they opened around about 5:30. Yeah, it was just, it wasn't really chaos. People were just standing in a good old fashioned British queue, really. And there was loads of staff that I could see. Eventually, one of the guys said to us that he's been told that there's production issues. So this was around 4:30. He said Michael Monroe is meant to be on, but that's going to be skipped, I guess, because there won't be time. So yeah, it was just production issues, and that's all they knew. And then once the doors opened, everyone went in, and Gary Clark played, and yeah, there was plenty of staff. I have read since all kinds of the usual stories about it must be like diva behavior, that's why they were late to start, but it had nothing to do with that. It was a venue thing, and that was well before the band was even scheduled to go on. And then the second night, doors opened as advertised, 3:30. Everyone went in. It was all fine.
Was that being communicated? Because there were a lot of fans, and I was sharing tweets. So it's not like I'm sharing real people's tweets, and they're showing these long lines outside where, yeah, it's not chaos, but there seems to be frustration, and there are reports of people not getting water. You know, did you see any of that? Was that your, did you see any of that? Or is that alone?
Somewhere in the kind of the snaking queue I was in, a woman screamed out that she needed some help, and then there was some guy on the floor next to her, so paramedics and things came to get him, and then he was taken off in a wheelchair. I have no idea what happened to him. Someone behind me said something about they thought he was having a heart attack, but he wasn't. So that was kind of dramatic. Kind of broke the weight a bit, but yeah, that was, I didn't really see. I mean, people had drinks and stuff with them. It was just more like people grumbling, like, what's going on? Why are the doors not open? Okay. I had a friend who was in another, because they had like, I don't know, 20 odd different entrances. So he was at a different entrance, and no one had told him about production issues or anything. So he had no clue why no one was being allowed in. So I think maybe some people, different entrances, were left a bit more in the dark than others.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, who's staffed at each one? Who knows what? Scott,
yeah.
Was that your experience night 2? Was communication any better?
Well, night 2, I mean, I don't know if it was like other parts of the stadium, but me and my fiance went. We got him fine actually. We went for a pint beforehand, aiming to get into the stadium at 4:30 because I really wanted to see Michael Monroe. So glad I went on the Saturday instead of the Friday because of that as well. Got to see him. And yeah, we were from getting to sort of like the outer ring of security to being on the pitch. We were there within like 5-10 minutes. It was no problem at all. Going in. I mean, I don't know what people. I don't know if people arriving later found any problems. Like if there was a big rush not long before Guns N' Roses is supposed to come on. But yeah, I mean, we found it actually on the second night going in really easy.
Yeah, that seems to be the consensus. If you showed up late, like Guns N' Roses fashionably late, you know, when in Rome or London or whatever the phrase is. If you want to just go and see Guns N' Roses, you probably were fine. But if you wanted to go early and catch Michael Monroe, which was a real bummer that first night, or get a lithograph, yeah, I guess you would have been amiss that just the queue. I love that. It's a much neater word than chaos or just it's a muck. It's a difference in America. We just think it's chaos. It's Black Friday, people running over each other. No, it's just people rumbling and just. It was it wasn't a riot. You know, just think about years past, this would have, hopefully it didn't, but years past it could have ended very poorly. So let's move on to night 2. So this obviously double London Jive, got to get to the double. What did you think? And this is a big thing now, knowing that Axl, well, I guess this is another, I want to get all your thoughts on this, that there's an illness. I shouldn't say air quote, illness with somebody in the band. It doesn't specify Axl. However, night 2, Axl changed his vocal approach. So, you know, let's go round robin. Let's go. I like the pacing here. Steven, what did you think of Axl's lower register that he was using? There was a lot of talk going into it and after it about, you know, Axl's vote, you know, he's 60. The dreaded, which I think is a curse word, I think, on this podcast, a curse phrase, Mickey Mouse. I don't want to say that, but the people saying that, where's the rasp? He went lower with a lot of songs, but was struggling at the same time. He paused the string. So what did you think of the lower register? What did you think was going on?
I didn't go. I went to night 1. I won on the Friday.
Oh, forgive me.
So,
no,
but all I will say is that.
Well, did you see it online? I guess.
I'm trying to, like, when I go to gigs now, I've got to stop drinking beer because I just can't remember anything. So what I do remember is we didn't realise about the sound quality because we were close to the front and because everyone's singing. You know, like Guns N' Roses are just so, and you know, from It's So Easy, the first, you know, all the songs, just singing along. So you don't really realise, and it's a shame because you want to hear Axl because he's my hero and everything, but so you don't actually hear him until like you get the DVDs and stuff and watch it on YouTube, and when you realise, and I thought his voice was fine, really, and especially there's a lot of videos of him with Carrie Underwood that that you see to find those quite a lot, and his voice sounds really good. I did, as I say, I haven't really seen the second night ones. I'm just sort of ploughing through all the videos from the first night. But I have heard this thing that he's got, because he's never done that before, has he? He's never gone down, a semitone or whatever they call it,
So
which is interesting.
Let me ask. Let me put that in pause. Here I am thinking. I asked such a great question to the wrong. I'll direct that to you, Scott. So get your thinking cap on. About the lower register. But Stephen, I want to ask, because I found fascinating. Carrie Underwood, I understand she became famous on American Idol. Why she initially wasn't famous everywhere. But since then, she's Grammys, country isn't my thing either, but I know who she is. I'm getting a lot of comments from people that went who had no idea who she was.
Yeah, no idea.
Wow.
Carrie Underwood is somebody that I know because I like the big rock bands, and I like the big country stars. So a Brad Paisley,
okay,
I quite like. But rock music in England is almost like hardly anybody listens to rock music. When I speak to anybody of my age, maybe, but certainly of younger ages, absolutely not at all. I mean, they know the hits, they know "Sweet Child of Mine," but someone said to me, like, why don't they play? Went to my team again, Tottenham. When they come out, why don't they play Enter Sandman to get the whole crowd going? If they played that, I promise you, of the 60,000 crowd, maybe 1,000 people would know what Enter Sandman is. Wow. So, and if you take that and then go to country music, nobody knows country music in England. I mean, if you said country music, they'd say, oh, what? Dolly Parton? Oh, Kenny Rogers? And that's about it. It's literally like almost no one listens to country music at all. We have a gig over here called C2C, Country to Country, which they do at the O2, and it sells out. And I go to it, but honestly, like in the charts and everything, the charts is basically Ed Sheeran and songs by Ed Sheeran that other artists do. So and some dance songs. But I mean, no one, like both my mates who I went with, didn't have a clue Carrie Underwood was, and I was like, does it matter to have a look? And she's got a great voice, and of course, she sings those songs brilliantly, and I loved it. What was it, about a year ago when she, like, as you said on the last podcast, when she did Paradise City at the country show about a year ago, and she also did it with Axl this time a few weeks ago. She sings them brilliantly, and I thought she was great, but no one knew who the hell she was.
Interesting. And I am trying to get her on the podcast. We'll see. I mean, that would be an episode.
Well, I'll be on with her if you want another person to be on.
Duly noted. I'm sure. Get in line. Get in line. So I guess, Scott, just to bounce, go on with that. What did you think? Did you know who Carrie Underwood was? Did you enjoy it?
Carrie Underwood, firstly, yeah, I knew she was only because Axl joined her at Stagecoach.
Only that,
like the festival recently. And then my fiance knows a lot more about other types of music than me, and she was like, oh yeah, she won American Idol, was it? And she knew who she was and stuff like that. But it was only So if I hadn't seen about her playing at Stagecoach with Axl a few weeks ago, I would have been sort of like, who's this as well? But although having said that, she was fantastic though, and just coming on to Axl's voice, I mean, he obviously thanked her on the second night for saving his ass. That was his words, and she was brilliant, to be fair. And I think by then he was struggling a little bit, but the lower range thing and all the rest. I mean, he sounded amazing. I thought the gig was fantastic. I mean, obviously, what happened on the second night was the first opening acts. Everything went smoothly, and they sounded brilliant, like the sound in the stadium and things like that. So I heard about the sound problems on the first night. I was thinking, oh well, everything must be fine now because these two bands sound great. And but then of course there was the big wait. There was like 19 minutes, I think, hour and a half wait between Guns N' Roses supposed to be coming on and when they finally did. And I thought, well, it must be those sound issues again. You know, the band can't be happy with him and things like that. And then, of course, when Axel came out, he was very honest. You know, he said, "I've got a bad throat," you know, and sort of like, and almost like kind of asked permission. You know, he's like, "You guys happy for me to carry on?" And of course, you know, everyone was amazing atmosphere, by the way, even with that big weight. You know, like you say, 30 years ago, could have been a riot or something, but everyone was, it was really good sort of spirits and atmosphere. And yeah, I thought Axel sounded brilliant. I mean, obviously starting with It's So Easy, it was hard to tell there was any problem at all because he sings that lower anyway. But then, you know, he rattled through, you know, Chase Moxie, Sliver, Brownstone all sounded brilliant. Civil War was fantastic. So it was noticeable on some songs he was singing a bit lower, but I just thought it was a great show. He sounded brilliant, you know. And then came the revelation that he said he slept overnight. And I remember thinking, okay, you know, I didn't know what to make of that. I thought, well, why? And then I thought, well, he obviously just wanted, maybe he was now worried about his voice and the sound problems. He wanted to like stay there to obviously, you know, sort them out as best he could, make sure everything was all right and things like that. And then, of course, we might come on to this a bit later, but the story about he had an anxiety attack, I obviously don't know whether that's true or not. But what I will say is, again, like you say, what happened might have happened 20, 30 years ago. What might have happened if he had a bad voice then? He might have stormed off or not played, you know. We're aware of that. But I tell you what, he played the entire show, despite the issues, with a smile on his face. He completely powered through it, smashed it. He was giving his opinions on everything from Britain, China, and Hong Kong after Chinese democracy, Ukraine. You know, he was really talkative with the crowd. He was in such good spirits. And that was just so great to see, you know, given the voice issues, and especially possibly if he did have, you know, anxiety attack, I don't know, but, you know, he just completely smashed it, you know. And I was going to actually say on this show, you know, before last night's news about the Glasgow show, at least he's had a few days now between shows, his voice has recovered. Sadly, it obviously hasn't. But I will say it must be really bad, you know, for him to have cancelled the show, because I think Richard Fort has said as well they really didn't want to cancel London shows, and you know, the fact he powered through it and did it, I really feel really lucky they did. Obviously, got to see him. Yeah, so I just think fair play to Axel, and like I said, the voice, you know, I mean, it was forced on him, but I think it worked really well, you know, when like and you know, it's something you might come back to. I know some fans are sort of commentate on this, and the idea that is he going to do this more now, and for most of the songs I think it worked really well, so why not, you know. But
yeah, that was the curiosity I kind of had last episode in part one, was it kind of a change for the stadium? Did he have to kind of change his approach, or did he just like an athlete getting older who just needs to change his game, which is fine, you know, because it did sound great from what I heard from the videos, and I'm grateful for fans that do post videos. But one thing before I get to Lily, who has I'm sure an interesting perspective since you were at both nights and what you saw, especially, you know, you saw like both versions of it. Like you almost saw, I don't know if you saw a decline or whatever, but I just want to acknowledge the only place that I saw or that anxiety report that came out was the Telegraph. And is that normally a reputable? I asked that last time. Do you guys, is that normally a reputable? Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, maybe they picked it up. As somebody who, I'll call myself, for a lack of a better word, journalist. I don't want to sound like I have an ego, but sometimes there are news sources that get picked up, and you know, maybe the source ends up being wrong. So I just want to say, someone who talks frequently about mental health, until I hear that from Axel, I don't want to just be like, oh, poor Axel, I hope he's okay. You know, he admitted, like you said on stage, I slept over in the stadium, which I think is badass. He's done that before. Hell, I've slept at radio stations before. Like, that's a normal thing. But to say, you know, to go, I don't know, just you want to approach mental health and anxiety when it's appropriate. So I don't know. Personally, I'd rather hear that from Axel.
I think whether he had anxiety or not, he had a throat problem anyway, so it's kind of a moot point. It's
right.
Private.
Yeah. Sorry, because I don't know if my Zoom sometimes oversees your audio, so forgive me for that. So I'll shut up, and I want to ask you, you know, what you saw night 2 versus night 1 and your experience with everything.
Sure. I just want to clear one thing up though about this whole delayed start. I actually think the problem is that it was advertised 6:45, which is crazy early. I've never been to any kind of major rock show that started that early. They came on around 8, finished after 10. Like, that is really standard. So I think it's kind of unfair that it seems to have attracted all this negativity about like a delayed start. But yeah, I think he definitely, on Friday, he sounded amazing. On Saturday, sorry, I can't remember which one was saying, but the songs start off quite low anyway, so you couldn't really tell. But then they got to a point where I definitely heard a few kind of bomb notes and things that didn't sound quite right. And then just as I thought, I remember really clearly thinking that did not sound right. And then he said, "I'm having some problems with my throat. I'm sure you can tell." And yeah, he said he was going to try switch things up and sing a bit lower and stuff, and that I hope you don't mind. Yeah, and after that he did sing things quite I wouldn't say it was like super low all the time. He just has such a big range, but I think I'm all for it. He has such I love his low singing. I've always wanted to hear more of it, so if it works for the songs, and it definitely did, then yeah, why not? But yeah, he was obviously struggling as well at the same time, but still seemed really kind of positive and happy despite it all.
This is not the old Axel.
No.
I do say kind of jokingly, but not really. I wish, and maybe Stephen, you've somebody forgive me. You have more grays in your beard than me, so I'm assuming you're older than me. I'm 38.
46.
Okay, not that much older. You look good. Gray fox, silver fox. There you go. That I missed out on the dangerous Guns N' Roses. That.
Yeah,
era.
no, I
They're not that early. Yeah,
I saw them before they brought out Use Your Illusion in 92 they brought out Use Your Illusion. I think in 91 in was it September they brought it out, because I came back off holiday to see them at Wembley Stadium when he was fully on red kilt, red shirt, with the Marty. I think it was from the Live and Let Die, the first video they brought out. So I was at that gig with Faith No More, Skid Row, and I think it was Faith No More, definitely Skid Row. When Skid Row did Wasted Tire, was it? No, Get the F Out, and nearly got chucked off the stage, which was amazing. And then they did like 3 hours, but no one had heard any Use Your Illusion songs. So they opened with Perfect Crime, and we're all going, blimey, this is quite a song to come out to. And but yeah, so that's the first time I saw Guns N' Roses, and then I've basically seen them every time they've been in London in any form. I'm an Axl guy, so I don't really go for the whole don't like this guitarist, don't like that guitarist. I love Slash, of course, but anytime it's Axl, I absolutely love the guy. So I've seen them play a little venue called Hammersmith Odeon, where I went on my own because no one else could afford a ticket, because it was the most expensive ticket, because it was just impossible to get them, but I had to go to that. And so I've seen them probably 10, maybe 15 times, I don't know, but I've certainly every time they're in town. And the one thing about you say about not feeling well, one time we was at Wembley Arena, and it was when Sebastian Bach was supporting like all over the world. He did it for about 5 years, didn't he? And he came on for Paradise City, and the manager came out. I can't remember who the manager was at the time, but he said, Axel's not feeling very well, but he didn't want to disappoint you, but he definitely can't do the last song. So we've got Sebastian Bach out to sing Paradise City. And boy, did he sing that song. He had the time of his life.
Oh, so, yeah. I forgot about that. That's cool. So, yeah, you've seen a lot. And even the point being, this could have ended really poorly. He could have ended the gig. That's kind of almost, I know it's not really apples to apples, but that kind of happened with another gig on that 92 tour in Montreal. Like, he lost his voice.
Well, he during Estranged, which was, I think, the 5th song, he just literally stopped everything. Went, right, everybody stop.
What went through your mind? I want to know what.
I was like, okay. I thought he was going to say, what's the matter with you lot? Because one thing that I really did know. And like, as you say, I'm an older guy now. So I just want to stand there and watch the gig. I've got a couple of mates who still like jumping around and moshing around, but I just like standing with a beer now, you know. And I did notice that no one was jumping up and down and going crazy. And like everyone over the age of, say, 40 was like putting both their hands up in the air like this. And anyone under that age held up their phone. And I was like, just enjoy the show, just watch this rather than watching it through your phone. So that was really bizarre. But I thought he was going to have a go at us all to say, what the hell is wrong with you? Get going. But he literally went, what's the matter? And I could see sort of people pointing to their ears. And then all of a sudden you could hear like this, good, 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 good. And you could hear like the speakers go on. And I think I remember this right. Slash like played a D or something. And you just heard like a reverberating around the stadium. And I think someone finally turned the speakers on. I think I remember that right. Lily might say, no, that's not what happened. But I think that's basically what happened.
Wow. Scott, I want to know your experience with that. Like, can you identify with like maybe a vocal, like a speakers popping, like anything that you recall in that second show like that?
No, I
that
think
was at the first show. Don't forget.
Sorry,
yeah.
Jesus Christ! All right, sorry.
Yeah. He's talking about the first show. The second show, I think, was fine. The sounded fine to me anyway.
Yes, you're right. You know, again, I've said so many times I need a producer. Too many. I usually don't have 3 panel, but I wanted to get everyone's experiences here. You know, from all different perspectives. Scott, I guess what I want to know. That's what I wanted to ask. What did you think when they paused? No, that was the first night he paused. It's strange. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. So, Lily, what did you think of the pause in Estranged? Like, what did you think was going to happen?
He looked pretty mad, and he was stopping it because there was a guy in the front who was doing something. And I had this moment where I remember thinking, oh no, like someone at the front is being, I don't know, like throwing something or putting him out in some way. And I kind of had this moment where I had, obviously I'm too young to have been to like the crazy writing days, but I've seen like YouTube stuff of it, and I thought it's going to happen, like something bad is going to go down because someone in the front. But then he said, I'm being told that I can't hear like what's going on. And then they carried on for a bit more, and then he said he stopped it properly and was like, people are saying they can't hear, is this true? And then I don't know what they did, but for me, where I was standing, I could always hear it. It definitely wasn't the loudest gig I've been to, but I could hear it. But then after that incident, it definitely got a lot louder. And I was speaking to my friends after who were in the Gold Circle, so this is probably more like your experience, Stephen. He said like I couldn't hear anything, or whatever they could hear, it was so unclear, and then suddenly it was like the speakers got turned on or something. So from people I spoke to, I think if you were at the very front, like in the Gold Circle, until Axel addressed that, you probably could hear very, very little, but everyone kind of further back could hear it okay. And then once they fixed it, everyone could hear it. And then on the second night, it was fine from the get-go.
It just reminds me, of course, I'm thinking of a stupid analogy. Why else would I not? But you remember the old Bugs Bunny cartoons where someone would go to a ballpark? Maybe, sorry, Steven, maybe you remember. He goes to a ballpark and he's just sitting behind just like a beam. Everyone has seats, but he's just sitting behind a beam in a giant ballpark. No one remembers it? Great. I'm glad I remember. But it reminds me of just like going to, it sounds like this. You go to a concert and you're sitting there, you buy seats and you can't hear it. I just can't even imagine that. But let's focus on some of the positive experiences. So, Scott, night 2, which you went to, I swear I will get this right by the end. You know what? This is why I should write notes. I used to do that, but I take it for granted that I have brain cells left, which I don't. Scott, what were your, do you have like a highlight of night 2? Something that really stuck out to you?
Yeah, definitely. Just to say, definitely take Lily's point as well. I was just one thing about the shows when it was like on the email that we had, it said the exact times the bands were going to come out, and GNR were coming out at 6:45. I thought the same. I thought, God, that's early for a headliner. Although, you know, although in the end, I think on night 2 they did do a bit of a shorter set, and but although still over 2 hours, which you know, I mean, like a lot of bands don't come on till 9 because they do like an hour and a half or something, don't they? But so yeah, there were a couple of things like missing because of that. But I mean, some of my favorites were there. Like absolutely love Estranged. I tell you, a couple of highlights were Civil War, just because there seemed to be that was quite special, probably on night one as well, like because of obviously things going on in the world at the moment, and that's obviously a fantastic song anyway, and that was quite special. And then During Patience, even though it'd been a lovely day all day, we had some like classic British, classic London weather. It rained a bit. And I don't know how to describe it, it's like one of those like sort of like beautiful gig moments. It was just like where I was, and just like kind of the atmosphere is a bit, it's quite special, and like I mean, and Stephen, there were plenty of people going mad around me, including myself. So there was definitely a bit of that, like obviously I love singing along and go mad a bit. My girlfriend's on my pint and so I can rock out and stuff, but they were the highlights. I mean, Jungle and Night Train, obviously amazing. I mean, Night Train, like one of the best hard rock songs ever. That just sounded brilliant. And then you've got to say Carrie Underwood was a highlight in the sense it was something a bit different. Axel's voice probably was struggling a bit, but then she came out and made Sweet Child of Mine and Paradise City still awesome, and just So like I saw them in 2017 at the London Stadium, West Ham's ground. Sorry, Stephen, but you said as you were there as well. So I got to see like the kind of like really long set and got to hear things like Coma and stuff like that. So I wasn't too sort of like gutted that they cut a couple of things like I think November Rain. I mean, when was the last time they didn't do November Rain, for example? So there were a couple of things like that. But I didn't.
They didn't do You Could Be Mine both nights.
Yeah, exactly. The same. A Rocket Queen as well, actually, one of my favorite songs.
They did that first night.
Yeah. But I had a great time. Looked at the positives, and I was like, well, it was an awesome 2-hour show. You heard some of my favorite songs. So my boys, Axel / Duff and the crew. So it's awesome.
Cool. Did your fiance like it? Is she a fan?
Yeah, she did. Yeah, so she's not a like massive Guns N' Roses fan. I mean, I've got obviously over the years we've been together, I've got her into them, and and she's a bit of a musician herself, so she appreciates a lot of it. She really liked Carrie Underwood coming out. But yeah, she had a great time as well. Really enjoyed it, and and just things like Jungle and I mean, that's just one of those songs and performances. You can put anyone in that stadium. I think they're gonna get something from that. It's just, it's one of the iconic electrics of, they were brilliant. Yeah.
Agreed. Stephen, what was the highlight for you for the show you went to night one?
Oh, well, it was definitely Civil War. That was absolutely brilliant. It's just got so much in that song. Did I see that on the second night they finished with Night Train and they hadn't played Sweet Child of Mine yet? Did they come out after the encore to Sweet Child?
Encore.
Sorry.
Lily.
Yeah, go on, Lily. Go on.
Yeah, the second night, the encore was Sweet Child and Paradise City. So
that's really unusual, isn't it? You must have been like, hang on a minute, they can't not play that. So that's always a highlight, isn't it? I mean, you can't get better than Sweet Child of Mine. I was like coming home and thinking, hang on, they didn't play You Could Be Mine, which is one of their biggest hits. But it's just, that's the band, isn't it? They've got so many songs. Rocket Queen, fortunately, they played on the first night. As you say, they might not have played on the second night, but that's one of my favourites. That the second part of Rocket Queen, that everyone's singing that, don't ever leave me. Just absolutely brilliant. So, yeah, I love that. It's weird because Slash just plays so many solos at the end of each song now. And I am a Slash guy as well, but I do love Axel. But just seeing him, he's just his aura, the ultimate front man. I would have liked a little bit more interaction. At one point after that speaker thing, he said, Axel the accommodator. And it's like, okay, all right. And then at one point he went, got a nice place you got here. And so all the Tottenham fans like me were like, oh, thanks, mate. So, but it was great. Yeah, I just hope they come back, and don't, obviously they couldn't come back because of COVID for a while, but I just hope they keep going, don't fall out again.
Yeah, well, I don't know if they're going to go to Tottenham Stadium again anytime soon, unless the acoustics are fixed, as Richard Fortas called themselves the guinea pigs, since they were. So hopefully they sort things out and do.
I hope they don't. I hope they play the O2 or a smaller. you like the arena. O2 is massive. It's like 25, 30,000. So just play like 2 or 3 nights there rather than the stadiums. I'd much rather that because it does sound so much better and you're so much closer. Have you heard of the O2, Brenda?
Yes, that I've heard of because that's just the famous. That's where
it's that's the main arena, a
Yeah.
Wembley Arena as well, and you got Wembley Stadium, and right next to it is Wembley Arena. But they're quite old. Wembley Arena is quite an old venue, but I'd much rather them play the arenas than the stadiums, to be honest with you. For obvious reasons.
Of course. Lily, what about you? I mean, we were hoping today to also talk about Glasgow, which we will get into momentarily. But what about you? Went to both nights. Highlights from both?
Yeah, I think the first night highlight was November Rain because they did kind of extra jamming at the end, and just to see Axel like so in his element, the way he was playing piano, and they were all so like tight with each other, and I just think more of that. Like I'd love to see a bit more of. I know they used to do like Layla stuff, a bit more Axel piano time, so that was really cool. And then on Saturday, it was You're Crazy, the slow version. That was a real surprise when they played that because they hadn't played it the night before, and I don't know if it was kind of a tactical move because it's a lower song, but I love it, and it was just really unexpected.
Right on, cool. And again, so as we've been alluding to, and why you initially reached out, Lily, thank you. And you were going to be part of a panel. I was going to do another panel for Glasgow. Shout out to my friend G, who does a lot of the imaging and graphics for this podcast, does the logo. I don't know, he might have shot some really cool video for us, but obviously all of that nixed. So it started people with getting a Ticketmaster. I think maybe that's when you reached out because somebody sent me that Ticketmaster information that they got that it was canceled, and I posted that on Instagram, and maybe you saw that, and that's why you reached out. I'm not sure. Doesn't matter. But then Guns N' Roses shortly after they posted on their social media. Sadly, due to illness and medical advice, GNR will not be able to perform in Glasgow today now, because I'm putting this out the same day, July 5th. We are working on rescheduling options for the show, so please hold on to your tickets and wait for a further update. We appreciate your understanding and patience. So quite a bummer. I really feel for the fans that had tickets, for any GNR fans, especially those of you like Lily who traveled. Like, how far have you traveled? Like, you're in Glasgow now. Like, what are you gonna do? At least you get to do a podcast. Is that I don't know. That's quite the same.
Yeah, I came from London, so I flew last night. I literally landed, turned my signal back on, and then I had messages from my friends in Glasgow saying gigs cancelled. And I just had this bad feeling as well. The night before, I called someone up here and I was like, I'm going to land and it's going to be cancelled. And I said, why? I said, because I don't think Axel's very well. They said postponed and not cancelled, but I had a look at but they're basically booked up the whole of this year, they're touring. As they're not going to come do like a random day in Glasgow. So I think your best bet is, fingers crossed, they'll play Download Festival, which is like the old Monsters of Rock, Donington. So they do that because there's going to be it's an anniversary. So there should be like a bigger, like a 4-day instead of 3-day, more bands. So hopefully they play that. And then while they're at it, they'll be pretty near Glasgow to do a rescheduled date. But other than that, I don't really see them going all the way for this one date. But yeah, hopefully, because I traveled, but at least I did get to see them. There'll be people who haven't seen them.
Right. And forgive me if you said it. How far is that flight?
It's about 1 hour flight plus like extra chaos that's at the airport these days.
Right.
Flights being cancelled and all that. But yeah, luckily mine wasn't cancelled.
The one time you wish it was canceled, right?
I know.
What the hell? You can't. But again, at least you got to see them twice, and I feel for the fans. And you bring up an interesting point, and I'm glad that you did. Thank you for looking into the dates and where they can possibly come back and seeing how difficult it is. And one of my listeners on Twitter is really upset about like, when are they going to come back? How are they going to pay for all these fees? I mean, that's just unfortunately standard for any concert you go to and traveling. It's not a Guns N' Roses problem. It sucks, but if it ends up being download, I hope they come back. I just don't know why they would say we're working on it if they weren't really working on it. It just, they might not have a plan of action yet, but I don't know. That your plan sounds pretty good, so maybe they will play download. I don't know.
Yeah. The thing is, last week Red Hot Chili Peppers played 2 nights in London, and then they had their Glasgow gig after as well, and they cancelled their Glasgow gig on the day due to illness. But I think they just said it was cancelled. They didn't have any kind of reschedule promises.
Right, and for a band that I usually criticize for communication, 24 hours notice, long notice. Not every band does that, So they did try to give notice. So, let me ask this, and I certainly do not. I'm an Axl guy, just like you, Steven. So I don't fault Axl. Do you think he should have played 2 shows in London back to back? Do you think that should have happened?
It's interesting you say that, because when they brought out the initial dates, obviously I was ecstatic that it was at Tottenham because it was my team. He was in my stadium, my band. And then when they brought whatever it was 2 or 3 weeks later, they said, "Oh, we're doing Saturday night as well." Immediately I thought, "Oh no, he can't do 2 nights in a row, because they'll play Friday, they'll play Patience, and then they'll just go, 'Should we do one more? Because we are on tomorrow night.'" You know what I mean? But in Dublin, they played like 4 or 5 encores, I think. So I was a little bit disappointed by the fact that they were doing 2 nights, and I can't do 2 nights in a row, let alone guys in their early 60s, late 50s. So, like I say, I'd prefer them not to do Donington, to be honest, because I'm too old for festivals now. I can't be in a field for 8 hours in the day.
Well, sorry, because I don't like festivals either. I went to Austin City Limits, and it's just, I'm too. You say you're too old. I'm too handicapped to go to festivals anymore. I just can't do it anymore. It's just, I don't like it.
Donington is massive as well. It's like, oh god! And I went to Donington. Who did I see? Iron Maiden, I think I saw, and getting out the car park and everything is a nightmare. But whereas in London, you can just get tubes everywhere and it's dead easy. But no, I don't think they should have played 2, because hey, look, they had to cancel Glasgow. So and it's got, like your name's Brando. When you say Glasgow, don't say Glasgow. It's Glasgow. All right.
Glasgow. Keep correcting me. I gotta get
sorry.
I'm sorry. I need to get better. And I will. Thank you, Stephen. Lily, then were you happy? I mean, I don't want to say you're happy, because now we know the Axl is ill. And oh, by the way, I want to get people your opinions on why they don't specify it's Axl, even though we all have an educated guess. We all assume it's Axl. I'm not sure if there's, maybe not to cause further worry saying it's Axl. I'm not sure. But Lily, are you like, oh yeah, two nights where I live, this is great? Or were you thinking, 2 nights in a row? I don't know.
Good for me. I mean, the more the better. We waited 2 years, I guess, because it was rescheduled with COVID. I've seen them a few times before that. I think the last time I saw them was actually at Download Festival. So yeah, I was like, bring it on. The more, like, I had the Dublin ticket I was supposed to go to as well. So the more they play in my neck of the woods, the better. I didn't really think about anything else. Maybe next time I'll kind of be a bit more cautious.
Huh. Okay. And are you going to hold on to your ticket for next time? Are you definitely going to, because we just don't know when it's going to be rescheduled.
Yeah, I mean, until I hear otherwise, yeah, I guess. I mean, if at some point, I guess if it's not going ahead, we'll just get refunded.
True. And Scott, how come you picked night 2 over night 1? Because obviously the 2 nights helped you out if you couldn't go night 1.
It was just, mainly because I was toying with the idea of going to both, but it's obviously, I did, sort of money and stuff, just thinking of other things I had to spend my money on at the time. But it's because it was a Saturday, mainly was the main reason. Just so like, because originally a couple of friends were going to come as well, like they did in 2017. So it's just easier for people to sort of get down and stay at mine and go, make a day of it. That was the main reason. It was a Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah, just on Donington, by the way. Yeah, I saw Guns N' Roses at Download years ago, and that was my festival too. I used to go like every year in my late teens, early 20s. I haven't been for a while, Probably getting a bit closer to Stephen's territory sort of thing in that. But I tell you what, I'd love to go just one last time and have a blast and see Guns N' Roses there. Like that would be I'd be well up for that.
And by the way, Scott, as you lift up your arm, did I see an appetite for destruction tattoo?
Yeah,
Was
that's
that
right. Yeah.
okay? Similar to Axel's, but more on the top of the arm, not the inside.
Yeah, and I haven't got like the banners up below and above, just the crucifix and the faces. But yeah, so.
I think we're big Axel people here because Stephen already mentioned it. You've got a very similar tattoo to him. I have a tattoo to him. So yeah, definitely some Team Axel here.
Yeah.
Are you able to? Again, I'm trying to be a gentleman. Are you able to show, or can we show and tell with tattoos, or is it a place?
Yes, I'm holding my phone, so I will try to like. I'm just going to move my phone down so you can see.
Oh, good. Oh wow, portrait.
You see that?
That's awesome. Yeah.
That is beautiful.
Yeah. In theory, I'll meet him one day and he'll sign just at the bottom, but I know there's like a snowball's chance in hell of that actually happening. But that's the hope.
There is more of I'm telling you, and I mean this. There is more of a chance of that happening than me interviewing Axel. I believe that can happen. I mean, all you have to do, which too many people did this summer, is hang out around his house in Malibu. Oh, here's Axel riding a bike that I happened to catch a picture of.
No, I don't want to do that, and I don't want to. I've got too much respect for like people's privacy, and he has a life, and I have a life, and it's more like if it kind of happened, which it won't. But yeah, I'm not gonna stalk him or anything.
No Axel for me, just the robot.
Cool. Yeah.
Nice.
I don't know. I don't think I've ever said this story, which maybe you guys will be funny because maybe it's different for you to get a portrait of Axel's face, but for me, if I got like another man's face, like I thought about my grandpa at one point. So that's another story about getting an actual Axel tattoo on me. But one time this is when I was living in Cape Cod, I had a giant Axl Rose poster in my wall, just one of those giant posters. I can't even, I'm not good with dimensions, but just bigger, twice the size of a normal poster. And it's that famous photo. He's wearing, well, I guess he wore a lot of short shorts back then, but they're kind of like the American flag shorts. He's not wearing a shirt. He's just kind of, in this Christ pose. I think nothing of it. It's Axl Rose. But I put up this picture right next to my desk, and it's my roommate that points out that Axel's crotch is like in my eye line. And then as soon as that's all I saw. Every time I was working, I had to take it down. So that's my pointless Axel crotch story and why I can't get an Axel portrait tattoo. Meaningless.
There's also bad ones. It took me a really long time to bite the bullet and do it because whenever I'd look them up, they would just make me cringe. They're so bad.
I would have been like, oh, that's nice if it was bad, because there are a lot of bad ones. You have a really nice one, absolutely. So let me ask, and maybe it is a tattoo for Scott and Lily. I don't know if Stephen, I don't know, maybe you have Chinese democracy chess piece. No, you're hiding underneath.
No tattoos, I'm afraid.
I want to ask everyone's favorite piece. I always ask this for fans who come on. Favorite piece of memorabilia. So let me ask Stephen, since we know it's not a tattoo, do you have a favorite piece of Guns N' Roses memorabilia? It could be a ticket, it could be a photo, anything.
I'll show you. It's not Guns N' Roses, but it is. If I can show you there. Can you see that?
So I see albums.
So it's 3 albums. It's the first 3 Metallica albums. Kill 'Em All, Master of Puppets, and Ride the Lightning.
Okay.
And what happened was my dad plays a lot of golf, and he was on the golf course with this guy and got chatting. He said, "Oh, I'm in the music business." And when Metallica first came over, we set them up, and anyway, they Lars gave me these 3 discs. My dad sort of said, "Oh, just got chatting," and he said, "I've got so much Metallica stuff." I said, "Oh, would your son be interested in? I've got these discs that are in my loft in at my house. Would he like them?" No, I'm not going to do anything with them. So yeah, I've got 3 platinum Metallica discs. I know it's not Guns N' Roses, but there we go. I'm quite happy with those.
I'm glad. I'm a Metallica fan, but I'm just curious though. Any GNR stuff? And
I mean, GNR wise,
favorite
sorry.
T-shirt, maybe.
GNR wise, do you know what? I've probably bought over the years probably about 20 GNR t-shirts.
Right.
Pretty tied up t-shirt. I remember I had one. I've had loads of them. I think I just got rid of them all over the years. Like I definitely had the Kill Your Idols Jesus t-shirt, and I've got some really nice LPs. You know, like albums, vinyl. I've got some nice vinyl 12 inches singles. You know, Paradise City and things like that from back in the day, like in a box set. But I've never met any of the guys. I've never even got close, really. But I don't know what, you know, when you like think to yourself, if you ever saw Axel in an airport or if you ever walked past him anywhere, what would you say to get him to actually engage rather than, oh my God, I love you so much, because he must hear that all the time. Right. I don't know. What could you say? I don't know. My favorite song is some obscure thing, and he'd go, no one's ever said that before. But they probably have, you know.
Yeah, no, I've said this brief on the podcast, but just briefly, I was like that with Weird Al when I met him. Like, what do I say? You know, I'm like, oh, I love you so much. I'm hears that all the. I'm like, I probably hear that all the time, and he goes, well, not from you, and then my heart melted. So you just never know, and I've thought about that. You know, if I ever interviewed him, what would I say? Would I fangirl over him the entire time? I don't know. I'll cross that bridge if it ever happens. Like I said, chances are Lily will get her tattoo signed. But I'm hoping, like, was this going to be your last stop, Lily? Are you going to go to any more shows, assuming those aren't postponed?
No, of this tour, that's me until next year, I guess, hopefully.
Do you have a feeling that, I get, this is speculating, I don't like to do it, but just for the sake of being on a podcast, do you think it's more of a rest? Do you get a sense of like this could be, you know, maybe a few shows? Just any opinion there?
I think it will have been 6 or 7 days between the last London show and the next one, assuming it goes ahead. So provided it's not too serious, I feel like it can go ahead. And whatever it was, he was still able to, I guess by his own lofty standards, it wasn't the best, but for any other kind of singer, I still thought he sounded really good, especially on those lower notes. So it didn't seem too dire, whatever it was. So yeah, I'd like to think it will carry on after this.
And he was able to tweet on July 4th, happy birthday to his cat, Dijon. Very happy. I don't know. I love the fact that Axel and Slash are cat guys. I'm a cat guy. I don't know.
Yeah, cat person.
Nice. So let me ask what I asked Steven. Favorite piece of Guns N' Roses memorabilia, collectible?
It kind of changes. I sometimes forget what I have because a lot of it's stashed away. But right now, I don't know if you're familiar with Steven Adler did it, Matt Sorum did it, this drum artwork. So I've got pieces by both of them. Unfortunately, they're in London, so I can't show you. So I was loving I got Matt one first, and then I got Steven's. Steven, there was some kind of a delay with it. So long story short, he actually made it out to me. So I've got my name written on it, right by his autograph as well. So and they look really cool. They're people who don't know anything about where they're from. I always get comments on. It's really cool, kind of abstract art. But then you have this secret meaning that it's actually like your favorite drummers caught in kind of these cool lighting and stuff. It's really them drumming. So that would be it for now. Yeah.
Are they anywhere? You know, they're private, but are there anywhere online to show, just in case? Like maybe later on, if you want to share. Like I'll ask this, and I'll promote your podcast again, Stephen, the Hotspurs podcast. But Lily, do you need to promote like an Instagram where we could see these photos, just in case?
No, I mean I could plug some other business that sells their artwork. Yeah, nothing of my own.
So who made? I mean,
it's called Scene 4, and they do like the art of drumming. So I've got one by Chad Smith as well from Chili Peppers. I think Bill Ward's done it, like a bunch of different drummers. Matt Sorum was the first one. So basically they drum and their sticks and things are lit up. And then depending on the art piece, some of them you can really tell, like the The Stephen Adler one I have, you can properly see like the shape of the stick and then the kind of bit at the top and where maybe he's kind of hit across the lower set and the hi-hat, and you can see the movement. But other ones, it just looks like completely abstract art. Yeah, I mean, they're really cool. They come out of LA, so if you are in the UK, be prepared to pay a hefty customs tax. But yeah, they are pretty unique.
Very cool. And the one time I met Chad Smith, because he's so tall and I'm 5'6", he just does like, puts his arm around me for a picture, does a split. And they could go down like 1 foot and never looks at the camera. So I have all these photos of me smiling like an idiot and him just like talking to somebody off camera. And I love it. And he's taller than me still. And he's doing like almost not a full split, but still kind of like that. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. If you know that show. When they, anyway, Scott, favorite.
Again, that's a bit like country music in England. Only some people know that show. And I know it's massive in America. But someone put me onto that, and like nobody knows that show in England. And but I'm on about season. There's so many programs. I'm on about season 7 or something, and I've still got like and I've been watching it for like 2 years. There's so many episodes of that show in there.
I think they're trying to make like a British version of that show because it's surrounds a pub, and I think the humor is kind of could translate. But yeah, that's why
definitely.
Let me just say before I forget, I appreciate all of you, not just for wanting to be on this podcast and listening to this podcast, not just the 3 of you that listen here, but who listen, because I probably, as I said before, butcher so many names, Tottenham, not Tottingham, whatever the fuck I said, and references that I hope people get. So thanks for the 3 people that listen. Scott, Lily, and Stephen. Scott, what do you have a favorite piece of collectible or memorabilia for GNR?
Yeah, I am still here, by the way. I think my camera's gone off, but I've got a new laptop. It just like sort of come up as camera off. I don't have to turn it back on, so I don't want to like cut myself off completely. So sorry about that. But
it's like you're in deep thought. I love it.
Yeah. In terms of memorabilia, I mean, like I want to get all my sort of Guns N' Roses like in Velvet Revolver tickets and sort of put them together and frame them one day, because they're obviously like quite special, like all the memories. And like I saw Guns N' Roses in 2006 in Birmingham, and it was one of the dates of Izzy come out, which was just absolutely like wow, not expecting that, and that was such a special day. Sebastian Bach actually opened that night as well. So like, and then other dates, 2017 recently. So I want to sort of put all them together, maybe with my Appetite for Destruction vinyl or something like that. Frame that'd be nice. But I suppose probably, it is my tattoo. I haven't got the sort of long-haired cowboy boots anymore like I used to when I was a teenager dressing like Guns N' Roses and stuff, But yeah, the tattoo's there every day, sort of like show off the greatest band, the greatest album to people, and it's always and yeah, the 2.5 years between buying a ticket and seeing them on Saturday, for example, because of COVID. It's one of those things you wake up every day. I got my tattoo to remind me I got that to look forward to. So yeah, I don't know if the tattoo counts as memorabilia, but
no, it counts. No, it counts. It's just like with me. You go out and be like, "What's that robot?" If you don't know, what is that?
Yeah.
Talk about Guns N' Roses. I think that's why I got it, because my first tattoo is Use Your Illusion back here, just a boy writing in a book. But that's on my back. I don't walk around shirtless. So, but I'm like, you know what? I want a GNR conversation piece, not just wanting to wear a T-shirt. I want it, and aesthetically, I guess that's one of the reasons why I'm sure you guys, all of you, love this band. The logo, the lithographs that come out. It's just a very aesthetically pleasing band. They're just very cool. Like everything about them, the name, not again more than the music, the characters that make the band. This is why I do this podcast, and this is why I'm really honored to speak with people literally around the world. So thank you, Scott, Lily, and Stephen, for joining me across the giant pond. Can I no? What's a good phrase? What can I say? Like, is there what would you say about America? You don't ever say that?
At the moment, I've got not much positivity to say about America. I do apologize.
Well, I'm just saying traveling. Like, well, what do you call it?
Although I love American food.
Like what? Like hamburgers?
Yeah, with chicken wings. You can't get decent chicken wings in England.
Oh, I'm never coming to England then. I'm sorry.
Yeah, don't bother.
Oh man. Well, regardless, I appreciate all of you for coming on. I hope this tour continues because I want to keep doing these tour reviews. I want because meeting you and Guns N' Roses fans across the world makes me feel like I'm not alone. I'm not the crazy one living in Guns N' Roses cave over here. So it's really appreciated that not you're just joining me. You reached out. So Steven, I want to make sure I give everyone their. I know you're all citizens, just Guns N' Roses fans coming on this podcast. But if you have something to plug, by all means. So the Hotspurs podcast.
Well, look, the Hotspurs podcast. I remember you listened when you said I'd never heard of Tottenham Hotspur before on the last show. Right, I'm going to try and get you to know who they are. So recently on a Jimmy Fallon show, or Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon was a guy called Harry Kane, and he's like the striker for England, and he's just about to beat the England scoring record. Did you see that Jimmy Fallon show?
I did not.
All right. So he was on that. But our most famous fan is Adam Richman from Man vs. Food. Do you remember that show?
I do know that show. I know who that is.
So he is a massive Spurs fan.
Okay.
All right. There you go. Tottenham. So it's Tottenham Hotspur, and the nickname is the Spurs.
I think it was funny. One of my good friends, John, I had him co-host the episode with Johnny Kelly from Typo, who's in Quiet Riot right now. He might be the only person. He knows your podcast, Steven.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he's like, you're really good. It's a crossover for him. And we went to college together. So there are obviously, I'm just not a soccer guy, or sorry, football. No. I'm the more boring American sports, I guess. So sorry for all the hockey talk. Again, more references you probably don't get on this.
Hockey, I tell you what, I do upset Canadians quite often, because when I was a kid, I saw Wayne Gretzky play twice.
Nice.
And there's like Canadians say to me, well, I never saw him play. And he's like the greatest ever, right?
Yeah. He is the greatest hockey player ever. So thank you all of you. Lily, do you have anything to promote? I mean, you look cool. Are you in a band or anything, or no?
No, just in my fantasies, but nothing to plug.
Okay, because I thought, and forgive me, because you're on Instagram. I couldn't creep your photos, but you had like a bass, or you're a rocking. Do you play?
Yeah, I play piano and stuff, but I'm not.
Do you know November Rain on piano? Can you do it?
Yeah, I mean, not very well, but yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate the effort. That's all that counts.
The effort.
I had a band at school. We were called Metal Goose.
Okay. Metal Goose.
And the metal, we did the writing like Metallica, and the Goose, we did like the long writing in Guns N' Roses.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
We were called Metal Goose. So there you go.
All right. I like it. And Scott, thank you for coming on. I don't know if you are still there, even though you're frozen in time.
Yeah, I'm still here.
You're still contemplating. Every thought.
I appreciate your time, Scott.
That
was awesome. Thanks for having me on here. It was brilliant to meet you.
I wish you well. Now you know I'm in Queens. You hear do you hear that? The ambulance coming by? Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that great for a home studio, having an ambulance come by? Isn't that perfect for it? No, Queens. Let's go. See, I'm pretending like this is live radio. Isn't that brilliant? So with Scott, I wish you well with your nuptials, as I've spoken about on the podcast. It wasn't a Guns N' Roses themed wedding, but I did. I didn't request it. My now wife, when we were married to "This I Love," the lyrics, my sister-in-law, that's how she ended the ceremony with it. I was just trying not to smile and start laughing, being like, did you listen to this song? Does she know about it, or did she just read the nice lyrics? I actually have to talk to her about that. I'm not even know if she might have just saw the really nice, lovely lyrics, never actually listened to it. I'm thinking out loud, as I tend to do. So thank you, all of you, again, for coming on the podcast, hearing me talk out loud, talking together. Hopefully more reviews on the way. We'll find out. So, as always, the conversation continues in between the broadcasts. I'll try to keep you updated as I know it at the AFD podcast, on Facebook, on Instagram, YouTube, however you want to contact me, whether you want to do a review for shows that are, knock on wood, whatever you need to knock on, are coming up. So until then, when will you see the next episode of Appetite for Distortion? Well, in the words of Axl Rose concerning Chinese democracy, you'll see it, I don't know, as soon as the word.